So the court case that I want to talk about today is Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission. Is docket number 08205. During the 2008 presidential election, a conservative nonprofit organization named Citizens United produced Hillary, the movie, a documentary critical of then Hillary Clinton, who was running for president. Because of the political nature of the movie, and the fact that Citizens United intended on using this movie to purchase airtime on a video-on-demand service on cable television, the movie was deemed an electioneering communication by the Federal Election Commission, the FEC, and was therefore subject to the same rules and regulations of political ads, including limitations on who may fund them. Citizens United sued in federal court to overturn this decision, lost, and appealed to the Supreme Court. Now, back in 1886, the Supreme Court offered an opinion in the Santa Clara County versus the Southern Pacific Railroad Company, whereby Supreme Court Justice Morrison Waite said in his opening statement prior to even hearing the case that, quote, the court does not wish to hear an argument on the question of whether the provision in the 14th Amendment was to the Constitution, which forbids the state to deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of laws, applies to these corporations. We are all of the opinion that it does, meaning this essentially gave corporations of any sort personhood, allowing the corporation to have some of the same very individual rights as individual persons when it comes to exercising their constitutional rights. So, in 1974, Congress passed the Federal Election Campaign Act to place legal limits on contributions, and created the Federal Election Commission, the FEC. So when this case was brought to the Supreme Court, the court held two hearings on the case, and its ruling ultimately went far beyond what the plaintiffs had sought. When the court handed down its ruling, it was to the surprise of many. It ruled that the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act violated the First Amendment right to free speech. It essentially opened the floodgates of unlimited donations, allowing for commercials to air without the approval of the candidate. The court also mandated that the candidate and the PAC, Political Action Committee, could not work in conjunction with one another. As far as even going further, saying that the candidates could not even communicate with the PACs, making it even more challenging to rein in non-factual campaign ads. The 5-4 split decision permits corporations, unions, and other special interests to spend as much money as they'd like to advocate the election or defeat political candidates of their choosing. And laws that bar those interests from contributing directly to candidates remain in place by ruling that individuals could not contribute more than a certain amount of money, but that the PACs could ultimately contribute to whatever they want. So it was unlimited amounts of money from an individual to a PAC. The PAC could contribute unlimited amounts of money, but as an individual, you could only contribute up to, I believe it's $2,300 to a individual campaign as an individual, thus far limiting the amount of a voice as an individual, and by unlimited amount of voice by corporations. The majority agreed that limiting money contributed by the many, it would effectively be contrary to the First Amendment rights of citizens, and contrary to our freedom of speech. Those who dissented found the ruling, the majority ruling, of the greatest harm to this nation's political process, which I happen to agree with. Now, analysis shows that over the last two election cycles of general election and midterm elections that political action committees have essentially dominated our television sets. During the 2008 election, prior to this ruling, there were far fewer political action committee campaign ads. Starting in 2010, however, there were quite a few in the midterm elections, which is why a lot of people felt as if that's the point where things about candidates were being said that weren't actually factual. Again, in 2012, this took place, whereby ABC News stated numerous times that they felt that some of the ads that were being portrayed on their air were unfactual. So this case means a lot to me as an individual, somebody who cares deeply about our nation's political process, and this case ultimately changed the path of politics in this country.